hi everyone.
Woo-hoo.
Welcome back to Magical Witchy World Television. I am Star Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Allen. You know what they say, better late than never.
Yes,
So
I
here
know.
we are. Welcome back this week.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but here we
Yeah.
are anyways, okay?
Persistence pays.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring on our special guest for tonight.
Our special guest is
It's a magical witchy world. It's a magical witchy world.
I love that
Woo-hoo.
song. I love
Me.
our theme song by Fred Dark Moon and how he performed it. It sounds so nice every time. I'm dancing like.
Yes.
But
Yes.
anyway, we're behind Houngan Sen Jak. We are so glad to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you so
And
much. I'm glad to be here too. Sorry for all the technical difficulties and delaying all the fun talk, but I'll go over if you want to go over. It's up to you. But glad
We
to
are
be
good to go.
here.
Good to
I'm
go.
glad to be
Yes.
here either way.
Yes.
we
Yes.
are excited to have you here. So, as we like to do with all of our guests, I am going to read through your bio to introduce you to everyone. And if I muck things up, please be kind to me. Okay. Ugan Senjak is a Ugan Asogwe of Societe Frache, no, La
That's
Frache
it.
Bellefleur Guinéen. Okay, I got
Okay.
that piece. By his godmother, Mambo Marie Carmel, is it Luiso? Luiso?
Loiso.
Luiso, yes. He has been serving the ancestors and the Loa for over 15 years and is a professional reader with over 30 years of experience in the occult alone. Excuse me. As a medium, he also assists in helping those who have passed on and teaches others how to properly honor their dead. Born and raised in Louisiana, he was always drawn to New Orleans voodoo and conjure and was allowed to explore these things by his family even at a very early age. Magic was in his blood, and his inherited connection to the realm of spirit would ensure his path to his destiny would be fulfilled. Today he lives in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, and is the head of his house, Societe Cafu L'Afrique Guinéen, where he serves the Loa by dedication and way of life, and has been successful in helping others in his own communities here and around the world. So that is just a little tiny nodule, I'm certain, of your story. Having
Yes.
said that,
Correct.
please share where others can find you. What URL, what website, where should we be tracking you and inviting people to find you?
Well, people can find me on Facebook under Ungan Sen Jak, and then Instagram as well is Papa underscore Sen Jak, and then I have a website ungansenjak.com.
Perfect. Excellent. So we will be streaming at least your website so people can find you as we go through our conversation tonight.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So again, we're very happy to have you here joining us here tonight. And some of
Thank
our questions will begin our nice, lovely questions with you.
you.
Okay.
Sure.
So one of the things that we've realized with people is because we cannot ever assume in the magical world, everybody's so different, so diverse, and everything else. So depending on your traditions or your spirituality, um, I don't know if you go through different names you've called yourself, not what other titles and stuff people are giving you, but what you have called yourself throughout your journey from where you began and where you are now. So, what arc did you take? And I don't know because some people have actually said they went from being a Wiccan or to witch to hoodoo practitioner. You know, so
Right.
it all changes for each person. So we wanted to kind of find out what your arc was.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, because the bio is just it's more, it's pretty much through the lens of Haitian voodoo and that, and an introductory to that journey. But there's definitely a lot more. I was born in 1976 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Everybody else in my family was from New Orleans. My father's side's Italian, my mom's, Irish, and, as I say, that's my white boy side. But we're a very colorful family. My growing up in Baton Rouge, growing up in Louisiana, really, we had hoodoo aisles in our regular grocery stores. Just a regular grocery store. It's an entire aisle, not just a section. So those things were definitely an influence. Seeing that on the regular, going to New Orleans regularly in the French Quarter and going to those shops, I saw that at a very early age. But the thing is that, aside from that, it was, I would say, not necessarily my attraction to the dead at the time, it was more their attraction to me. I was experiencing a lot of things from a very early age, as far as I can remember. Magic was something that I can't remember not believing in and not exploring in some way, with the resources that we had at a very young age. It was something that was always interesting to me. The Louisiana traditions, the hoodoo, as we called it, was something that I was most familiar with as that style goes. And, I would find things on witchcraft here and there. I used to read encyclopedias. I used to go to the libraries a lot. That's where I got a lot of my information. I just looked for every little thing that I could. And, that led, I guess I was 15 years old, that led to an interest in witchcraft, an actual, what I learned was to be like the religion of witchcraft. And got a hold to a couple books, probably some of the same ones that we all read back in those days. And talking to my mother started noticing what I was reading and started noticing some of the things. And at that age, 15, 16 years old, the spiritual activity was cranked up a lot. Because of the puberty and all of those things, but it was a lot of things started happening. And so my mother was kind of, not really sure what to do with me in regards to that, because she couldn't deny what she was also seeing,
Right.
So there was a bookstore that was kind of like my little safe haven when I was a young teenager. It's called Phoenix and the Dragon in Atlanta, Georgia. And I would go in there and I'd spend like an entire day there. I'd take the bus from the suburbs and spend an entire day there. And that's when we moved to Atlanta. We moved to Atlanta probably in like 1990. And I learned about a couple covens in the area, and got some phone numbers, two of the high priestesses from two of the ones. One of them, was kind of hard to get in touch with. The other one was very clear that because of my age, I had to get my mother or my father's permission.
Of course, permissions are always needed, yeah.
Yeah, this group was called the House of Ravenwood, and it was run by a Lady Santana in 1975. And they were very well established. And, I kind of had the talk with my mom and brought her on a full moon, and she met everybody and realized, I think what she realized that it wasn't just a group of goth kids, that it was actual run by adults. She was a little bit more comfortable, and she allowed her to kind of take over in that area of my life and guide me and, essentially to teach me how to handle these things that were coming around me that I didn't know how to get rid of.
Right.
So it brought me a lot of peace at that age, but then it also, it was how I came out, was with certain members of the coven that were adults. They took care of me. She took care of me. She made a promise to my mother and she kept it,
That's fabulous.
I was with her, all the way up until, from like 15, 16 till probably officially moved to Midtown was like at the age of 19, 20. And that's when I kind of backed off a little bit, discovered fun.
Other things, yeah.
The 90s were, we all know, and had a lot of fun. And, eventually got tired. And it was years later, it's probably like around year 2000, I called that number that I remembered, and it had never changed. And, went back, started, seeing some old faces and, and touching, just getting on everybody and just having a good time, and realized that a lot of things had changed. The coven had branched off. A lot of things had happened. And, I did eventually initiate in that coven in 2001. And it was after that I started having certain dreams. And it was dreams that I had had since I was a kid. And it reminded me of that spiritual, that dead connection. And it's almost like when I was done with partying and having fun, things just started to turn back up.
Right.
Through meditation and doing all those things again, which was something I was accustomed to doing.
Right.
She allowed me to go through the priesthood at 16, but I still couldn't
Wow.
initiate till I was 18. So I did the whole thing
So
then.
wait, just 1 second. So when you did was that as a witch or as something
Yeah.
else?
Yeah,
Okay.
that
So
was
you went from being a witch to what
correct.
now?
And yeah, and after initiation, that's when the volume cranked up, so to speak. And I started having dreams about dead and about family members, and I started serving them. And then all of the things, just started opening up.
So if I get this, so if, just following that trajectory, you started very young,
Very young,
obviously,
yeah.
and it started with a coven. Let's put it this way: you went through the studies, you did the work. Of course, as you say, you couldn't initiate until you were 18, but you did
Right.
all of the work ahead of time, and that was a witchcraft tradition.
Correct.
We're going to say that. But then, okay, so now, because there are some other questions. So, how do you then, as Star was asking, how do you refer to yourself
Right
today
now, yeah.
in this version of self, let's say,
Gotcha.
where you're at
Well,
the moment?
my paths, don't cross the borders.
Mm,
There's certain ones that came full circle.
mhm, mhm.
Witchcraft and certain things with that ended up coming kind of full circle, even as of recently. Certain things that are more, they connect in an ancestral way. Some of my elders, including Lady Santana, when she passed, I serve her as an ancestor. I serve a
Beautiful.
lot of the elders at third degrees that I knew growing up that were old and got older as
Mm,
time went on and eventually
mm,
left this place. I served them as ancestors. And there was a time where, I asked for something. I don't care which path it comes from. I'm a
mhm.
God, and that's how I practice now. But some of those connections still come through. And I've heard her talk to me and say, "What are you bitching about? Do the chant and cast a circle. You know how to raise up, how to raise energy." She's like, "That's your solution. Don't go to this one, go to this one." So, when we deal with the dead and we deal with the ancestors, they're the ones that guide me on who I give this problem to, or where I need this
Right.
uplifting at, or where I
Yes.
need extra love at. So I
Yes.
keep it very separate but very balanced. And
Yes.
so when asking for something, the answer I got was in the form of a familiar divine lady.
That is awesome.
That was from one of my ancestral bloodlines.
Yeah.
And she
Okay.
actually did exactly what they said she was going to do. And it was, I'll say this, it was life saving.
That
Okay.
is beautiful.
So you went from witchcraft to being a hoodoo practitioner now, correct?
So yeah,
No.
hoodoo was the magic that I was most familiar with, and
Okay.
because it was something that I grew up with. Haitian voodoo came after the initiation into the coven, and then I started officially serving my dead, and it was just like opening up a gate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
So now that so you've given us some background and a lot of it has to do with this next question, but I want to dig a little deeper, which is in the question of what brought you to this. So you had exposure. You had exposure to all of this, but when was it where you felt this deep connection? I mean, it was around you all the time, but still you have to answer the call. And when did that happen?
So that happened the night that I formally served my dead. And the way I
Mm.
did that was I did a DNA project. I learned where all my people came from. And I
Oh,
cooked
right
an
on.
old school traditional meal for every one of them. And had this
Wow.
big table set up. And then I had my
Yeah.
small plate with little bits from that. And I basically sat and had dinner with them. And that night
Beautiful.
the dreams started coming. And there were dreams of entities that were not typical dead, but ones that I had seen in New Orleans growing up, and in that area,
Mhm.
certain ones that were Haitian voodoo, that were African. I started seeing,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who some of them were, so I pulled out my books and started doing research and tried to match who they
Right.
were, and it kind of that was basically how that began. And
Okay.
then
Wow.
ones that I was familiar with as a kid, like Baron, he's of course the man of the cemetery. We know him.
Mhm.
He was
Mhm.
one of the first ones, and then
Mm.
other ones that kind of made a lot of sense when I thought about how I grew up in the swamps and playing with snakes and certain things, and certain
Oh,
spirits that ruled those areas were always there.
yeah.
And
Interesting.
started
Yeah.
claiming me, and
Yeah.
I just started learning. the way I
Absolutely.
could. And my hoodoo space was a thing then, and that's how I met some of
My
the great
hoodoo
people.
space. The my hoodoo space of my space, is that what you're saying? Oh my God, that's so
It's so
cool.
hard to remember MySpace, right? It's just,
Yes.
but anyways, okay. So this next question, I don't know because we're not doing it from anyone else's point of view, but from your point of view, your linear point of view itself. What does it mean to be that Hougan, that practitioner that you are right now?
So one of the things, you learn a lot about why you are on the path that you are during these
Mhm.
journeys when you're working with the ancestors and with higher, with elevated spirits. One of the things is why, why me when there's this factor and that factor and all of these other things that come into play, why me? And there's several reasons, I guess, that several answers to that question. That was one of the things that I wanted to know if I was going to do this and give it the justice that it deserved,
Right.
dedicate myself to it. And it's understanding my past, understanding who my ancestors are, their
Mm,
effect they had on other people's, and where my place is in this. There's a lot of this became about elevation for things of the past, things that, my ancestors had experienced, things that they experienced at the hands of other bloodlines that are in me. So there
Mhm.
was some healing to be done. And, it was almost like because you had people that repressed certain people in this way, it's almost like you have to serve these spirits now.
Mm.
That was one of the reasons. That was
okay.
one of the reasons. Like I
Mm,
said, there were different ones. Some of it was DNA. Other ones were because of if you have, if you have native blood, that kind of opens up a whole different new can of worms to spirituality and being connected
Mhm.
to the land. So it was about the spirits. And in Haitian voodoo, we serve spirits. We have the
Mhm.
law, but the one thing that my godmother taught me is regardless of the spirit, where it comes from, whatever culture, how they see it, if it comes to you, she's like, you serve it. As a priest, you serve it. She's like, we have a set of tools that not everybody just has to connect to these
Mhm.
spirits in a formal way, in a structural way. And so,
right.
it's about service. And so I had, starting at an early age, accumulated various things that I had grown up with. Some came later. Some, I asked a question and they answered,
Right. Right.
So,
And so
I'm
That
sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, Star.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so when you're talking about your work as a practitioner, um, it's about service is what I'm hearing.
it is.
The great deal of the work is about
It is.
service, service to
And that
spirit, and
branches
then
out into your family, your
right on.
community. What I do helps my family, even the ones that don't like what I do,
Right.
whether they want it or not.
Truth.
It helps
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
neighbors, my community. It keeps us safe. It keeps us our
Right.
big trees in the south from falling on our properties. you know,
Right.
and all of
Do
those
not
things.
don't think that's small potatoes. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
Listen, we had Superstorm Sandy some years back, and you trust and believe I was at my mother's house in the woods. I
the
was doing
sounds.
some
I'm sure
work
you heard.
before those trees came down away from the house.
Yes,
Do the
yes.
work. So tell us about how magic fits in your day-to-day life. Tell us about your spiritual practice in your day-to-day.
Spiritual practice for me is tending to the things that I've committed to. There's daily tending to my ancestors, my eguns. I speak to them. I give them things. If I fix myself something, I give them part of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
First,
Mhm.
unless I have a living ancestor here. Um, it's each day of the week we got certain things that we do. Certain groups, so to speak, that we manage, that we take care of. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a lot of work. It's something that becomes second nature, though. I don't know what
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know what I would do with my time. Meditation is something that I do in the evening.
Okay.
I have my prayer list, so to speak. My little
Right.
energy list where I send energy to certain people. And
Mm,
have
Mhm.
that. Um, that's a big thing. The mental discipline I learned at a very early age, which Lady Santana always said was the cornerstone of witchcraft. And the
Mhm.
development of your mind to the fullest extent is something that I have always adhered to, and I teach my god kids, and I encourage that.
Right on.
meditation, because it changes your magic.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we do magically, honestly, is for mostly other people. We serve so that we don't have to defend or attack. We clean and we strip and we do all those things. But
Mhm.
if you serve your law and your ancestors the way they
Mhm.
deserve and what you committed to and what you signed up for, you don't have to do those things. You
Right.
really don't. So my
Doing all the work.
chores are like the regular house chores, and then checking on the food that I left out the night before. How long has it been sitting there? Who needs what?
Right.
It's
So
keeping
taking
everything
care of business.
fresh. It's
Yeah.
watering the plants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So well said.
So yeah, actually, that's kind of a great segue into finding out what do you consider what's important to you itself in all of that, the grand scheme of things for you.
Okay. Well, I can say, and this is through just regular beliefs and morals, but also because of experience and certain things that I went through earlier in some of these systems, because it is a learning process. Is I love to see other people grow.
Mm.
I like to see people who have been broken, who have been put down, just thrive in ways that they never imagined.
Mhm.
And seeing that in my god kids' lives and watching them develop, that's what makes me proud. As we grow, as we elevate, so do our ancestors.
Yes. Truth.
So it's seeing
Okay.
we want to change the world. Most of us do. We want to make it all a better place for everybody, but we just simply can't. We start with ourselves, our
Mhm.
children, our godchildren, our family, and then our community, the people that are closest around us. That's what we do. So it's about being something good that elevates, that uplifts. I don't like anything unless it's uplifting, plain and
Right.
simple. If
I
it's
know.
if it's
Awesome.
not, it's not worth my time. I don't like anything,
Such.
based off of fear where you're worried. I don't like too much superstition in beliefs. There's a lot of that in our circles,
Right.
Mhm.
but
Right.
Mhm.
it's being a way for, when I moved into this neighborhood, I live in the south side of Atlanta. I live downtown. Most of my neighbors are brown, black,
Mhm.
some mixture of. I'm one of the, few in this neighborhood. And let me tell you, like within like a couple of weeks, I had probably about 180 or more, and just that one ceremony, West Africans, Cubans, Afro-Cubans, you name it, all here. All the people in white, as my neighbor says. She's like, I was sitting outside when the people in white showed up.
Oh my God, love it.
When we have those bimbes and those anyas, for the Lukumi community here, because I got a decent sized house with a lot of basement,
Mm.
capacity. And so my neighbor's like, hey, you got any goat? You got any that guinea fowl left? They want the food. They want the blessed food. They want the magic food.
That is
And so
awesome.
we've, they know who I am. They know what I do. And they're all, everyone is, I never had any problems, but
Right.
it's just being somewhere, like I have one neighbor, they feel like they're safe because they're my neighbor,
Good. Right.
and whether that's
Right.
true or not, it's a nice feeling for them. So
Right.
Yes.
Right.
this is about
Absolutely.
uplifting people.
That's
This is about helping
important.
them find their destiny. This is about destiny too.
You have led us straight into this next question, because what you're speaking about is your neighbors and the people you connect with. So tell us about the work you have with community right now.
Work with community in that role. Well, right now, in the way that Atlanta is,
Mhm.
it's trying to stay sane in it.
Mm.
And I mean that
Things
literally.
are
It's
happening.
it's become a very. I mean, Atlanta in itself, despite all the the political craziness, and it has just been a
Mhm.
very just. It's a dark place. It gets very dark at times. It gets very musty. It gets very dirty. And
Mm.
I have a friend that's a Houngan that used to live in Atlanta, moved to New York. He's just like, I just want to take like a big old pickup truck and just fill it full of sage and put a torch to it and just drive
Oh
it
my
downtown, you know,
Right, right.
and drive it
That's
up.
interesting.
Okay.
That's
It's always
interesting.
been honestly like the things that I care about right now. And I have certain neighbors that are, I call them matriarchs and
Mhm.
patriarchs of the neighborhood. They've
Mhm.
been here a long, long time. They're in the 80s or 90s.
Yes.
Nothing will happen to them as long as I'm around.
Right
They will
on.
never go without as long as I'm around.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. That's
That's awesome.
beautiful.
And if it's not that, it's every stray cat and stray animal that decides to come, which is why I have
Yes.
8.
I saw a couple of them. I saw
And
that
anyone
you and
knows I
your
have German
cat,
Shepherds
they're so
too. I love my
cute.
German Shepherds. You
Right
know,
on, right on.
I love dogs
yeah.
and cats. I love them all. Okay.
Yes.
So, what would you like to see us as magical people or practitioners of whatever we practice at? What would you like to see us accomplish? And in some of it, you kind of said there with getting that truck and putting a whole bunch of sage and torching it.
Yeah.
Because and it's a very volatile world, or not world, I should say United States, or I don't even know what to call it. You can't even call it United, but whatever. It's a very volatile situation that we have going on, like a powder keg. But in general, what would you like to see us accomplish? Maybe to help matters or something. I don't know.
It it kind of goes back to something I think I said earlier about
Mm,
wishing you could save the world or save a
mm,
country,
Right.
or do all that. It's what I would like to see more is, when people say they want to help, they want to do things, is to put their money where their mouth is, no matter who you are.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Do what you can, because you never know what that person can do and who they might connect to and influence.
Right.
So we
Truth.
work in our environment that's closest to us. And it is to do things for do your magic, not for just for yourself, but for your neighborhood, your surroundings, your neighbors, your politicians, even.
Yes.
You know, you know,
I know.
so we do what we can, but we do it in a way so that it actually does have an effect.
Yes.
When it just comes from, even if it's just us and not a large community of people, but we want to still have an effect. We can feed that big brain of positivity and goodness that's up there, but we got to do something right now, even while that's building up, and gaining this momentum. We got to hit where we can hit and help where we can help. But people gotta help. They gotta be kind.
Yes.
And I think it's also important, for on a whole different level, but from a different angle, you know study all the different paths, learn about them, be well versed in them, understand where people's strengths are, what they can possibly bring to the table. If you
Yeah.
need that, we all got to, as a community, stick together. And that really is the truth, because everyone has their inner and outer circles. It seems like everyone has their little
Right.
little base of drama,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
that when I see that, I think about my godson and my godbrother and his family in Haiti, who we had to move to the DR to be safe.
Mm,
I'm sitting there looking at all this foolishness and all this
mhm.
talk and all this pointing and all that, and these witch hunts and all these things, and I'm thinking about my motherfucking, excuse me, family
No, it's
in
all right.
Haiti, that are literally living in a circle of hell that we will never know, and I'm
Right.
trying to keep them safe,
Right.
and keep them fed and alive. That's what I care.
Yes.
Someone who, you got to help where you can make the most difference, where where your money, your magic, everything has the most impact. You can change.
Right.
You never know who that person might become. You never know what they could do for someone else, who could do something for someone else. That's a chain reaction right there. So
So
I like
true.
to keep it close to home. I think a lot of people should kind of keep it close to home, instead of the big grand picture that we all want to see change, but do more with your people and your
Right.
community.
And that would
You know,
help.
yeah.
So
Right.
well said.
Yeah.
So well said. Still, it will ripple out. It will ripple out.
Mhm.
So tell us about the projects you have going on, or things that you're thinking about doing.
Projects. Let's see. I've
Yeah.
got my first year teaching at Hex Fest this coming August.
Hey.
I've been to Hex Fest a few times. With my former my late godbrother Hoodoo San Moise Kirk. I've met a
Mhm,
lot of the
mhm.
people in those communities through him,
Yeah.
Mm,
which kind of something I always do every year. I've been
mhm.
there since the first one. It's something that's a lot of fun to do. But I'm
Right
excited about
on.
Hex Fest. I always get to mix it with a little bit of family and friends, and then everything else in between.
Fabulous.
So that's coming up, and then we got some ceremonies coming up for the house. We
Mhm,
got some big plans. We're trying to my godfather that I was speaking of, and my godson, that we moved to the Dominican Republic, which is just
mhm.
a different level of hell for the Haitians. If you're Haitian,
Uh,
we're going to be moving them to the north of Haiti
okay.
so that they can be back
Okay.
home on their island.
Right.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
north is safe. Cap Haitian is safe. There's some
Okay.
incredible sacred sites there that I'm excited about my god kids being able to visit one day. It's
Okay.
different. Voodoo in the north is different from voodoo in the south.
Absolutely.
But
I
we're the
can.
same root. Same root.
Right.
Just
Right.
Right.
maybe a
Right
few
on.
different songs and dance moves and some spirits that you don't see in different regions. But it's going to be a beautiful thing for them. It's I feel safe for them. I know that they're going to at least live while they're in the DR, but it's a whole nother level of hell for them in the DR and the way they're
Yeah.
treated as poor.
Okay.
So
Everything's different now. The world that we live in right now with everything
yes, it
chaotically.
is.
Okay.
No
So,
So that's the
kidding.
biggest project is getting them moved back to their home.
Right
okay.
on.
Got it. Got it.
Sacred
That's
work.
awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned some of the events that you have coming up, but is there any other ones? I know you mentioned Hex Fest and WitchCon for next year.
Mhm.
Anything else that you have coming up that you would like to share with everyone to let them know? And let them know about the dates of Hex Fest and see if people can book. I'm sure
Yeah.
they're still accepting bookings of people to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So let me look that up because I always forget the exact
August.
dates.
Eh?
It's August, like August is the 8th and 9th. Let me see.
It's
August,
coming
yeah,
up.
8th, 9th. Yeah, August 8th and 9th, or 9th and, yeah, 8th, 9th, and 10th,
Okay.
essentially.
It's coming up,
It's coming
basically.
up.
It's
Yeah.
coming
Well,
up.
we have a big family. We got a big house ceremony here that weekend before. And so I'll
Mhm.
be able to relax and breathe a little bit for about 3 days and then it'll be off to New Orleans. So, but I'm bringing some god
Very
kids with
fabulous.
me. I'm bringing some people with me.
Awesome.
So we're going to have a good
A
time.
grand
And
time.
looking forward to meeting some people in person that I've only got to know online, So that's
Yeah.
an
That's a
exciting
beautiful
thing.
thing.
And then yeah, September I go to Omaha to my god sister's shop. She has a Conjure Fest there, which is a big festival of witchy and magical people and conjure folks, and it's a big deal.
I
Um,
think Conjure Fest is ran by who?
uh, Izzy McDermott is her name on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
In Omaha.
hmm
Love that.
yeah.
Love
Midwest has
that.
got
So
it's got
we've been,
things.
yes, yes. I spent many years in Michigan. That's my
I
Yeah,
Midwest
know,
roots.
right? I was just
Um,
like, because I was thinking when you
yes.
mentioned that, I know a few people who run different conjure things, festivals out of Michigan, out of,
okay,
but I
Mhm.
didn't know about the other parts. But, new things that are coming up. So it's all good. All
yeah,
right.
It's fabulous. So we're scrolling your website. This is correct,
correct.
right? Houngan Sen Jak. Excellent. So if people want to find you, find out where you'll be teaching and events that you'll be at, or if they need services of any kind, they can reach out to you on your
The
website.
website or Facebook or Instagram. I tend to work with Facebook Messenger a little bit more than Instagram, but
Um,
any of them,
Okay,
they can get me. They can get me.
right
Right.
on.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
And
persisting and
yes,
You're
overcoming the tech
welcome. I wish we had more
persevering.
time. Yeah, I wish we had a little more time. It's fun talking to you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's always the start. This doesn't mean that it's the end. It's just the
Yes,
beginning. It's fabulous. Thank you
Yeah.
again
you're
so
So
much
welcome.
for
much for
taking the
being here
time to be
tonight.
with us
Thank you
Yeah.
for
tonight.
having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. And right now, we're going to share a little bit about Witches Fest USA coming up this year.
It's that time of year again, me pagan and witchy folks. The time for Witches Fest USA, a pagan fair where we all gather dressed as all the magical folks we love, like fays, elves, sprites, and more, with magical vendors, enchanting performers, and magical presenters of all kinds, past and traditions. You can come in person and spend the day on Astor Place in New York City and enjoy free workshops, vendors, presenters, a DJ, and live performances. For information and registration, go to www.witchesfestusa.org. That's www.witchesfestusa.org. Get caught up in the magic and enjoy.
All right. Thank you
Well,
all for being here with us tonight.
and we are going to jump into our astrology time.
Where am
Oh
I?
my
Am I gone?
gosh. No, you're here. Can't you see us?
Okay. All right. No, it's just that it felt like I was like, wait a minute. Did I get lost or something?
No, you are here. You
Okay. All
are
right.
here.
Sounds good. Okay. So we are going to get started with our astrology and we'll begin. And tonight I was going to do all four, but we ran behind with time. So we're going to do only two of the signs tonight. So we'll begin with Cancer, and sorry, what's the other one? I'll get to it.
Scorpio.
Scorpio. So
Yes.
making sure I'm all good here. So the June horoscope says Jupiter in Cancer will make everything so much better. So this is the month we've all been waiting for. Okay, hold on 1 second because I think I erased. Okay, so Scorpio, your June horoscope says that Jupiter will take you far, far away from here. So pack your bags. Scorpio, summer is just around the corner, and what better way to start than planning your next vacation? Kind of hard these days, but hopefully you can do it. Worldly Jupiter encourages you to explore new cities, countries, if they'll let you, if they will even let you come to them, and more. It's time to buy your plane tickets and pack your bags. You're on your way. If you could afford to go anywhere, where would that be? Okay. So, your horoscope for June 2025 finds that Gemini seasons reviewing your eighth house of investments, secrecy, and transformation. And the beginning of this month encourages financial empowerment and personal development. So, getting your finances in order was the key for your success as Mercury worked with Mars on June 5th. A dream professional relationship or contract could materialize. Explorative discussions revolving around your deepest desires and fears will surface when Mercury joined Jupiter on June 8th. Starting June 9th, Jupiter began traveling in a water sign that truly lives with your deep and emotional nature, helping you feel comfortable and more in your element. It may have made you felt overwhelmed when Mercury entered Cancer later that day, but these planetary shifts will help you work toward your desires, as Cancer season will spur your travel bug. Okay. Over the next 12 months, the universe will inspire you to expand your mind as well as your spirit. Perhaps, again, we mentioned travel, exploration, or by focusing more of your time on deep studies. Having your finances in order helped you experience rewards for your efforts around the time of June 11th, that full moon that just went by beautifully in Sagittarius, with rises in the sky. Oh, and that June full moon in Sagittarius, the next time it's going to happen is in 2043. So that was a really powerful time for us there on the 11th. Okay, and it's activating your second house of finances. However, keep in mind that this will be a time to be flexible in order to take advantage of all the opportunities that are available to you. So mid-June promises setbacks for your travel plans as zany Uranus throws curveballs at action-oriented Mars on June 15th, which means a lot of political things are going on. So it's going to kind of throw some, setbacks in there, but try to go around it as best you can and be safe about it. Around this time, Mars will clash with wild child planet Uranus, testing your ability to shift your mindset. So with driven Mars traveling in your career sector until June 16th, you're more likely focused on productivity and making your mark on this world or in this world. Professional problems at work will delay your progress, given that Jupiter will also square Saturn and Neptune over the next few days. Perhaps your time off request isn't approved, or your vacation plans have been disturbed by your colleagues in some way. Again, try to persevere through that and firmly set your boundaries as Mars enters Virgo on June 17th. So doing so will make your life much easier when Cancer season begins on June 20th. Which is the solstice as well. Despite wanting to jump on the next plane, you still have to get your responsibilities out of the way as Saturn and Neptune make a fuss at the beginning of Cancer season. Higher ups, clients, and more may expect you to be available. So those are some of those colleagues. Use this time to clarify your schedule, since the Jupiter Casimir activates vacation mode on June 24th. So if you notice, so far all of it is playing up to this vacation that you're not going on. We're gonna keep trying anyways. Okay.
Yes.
You can expect to
Yes.
have a heavier workload starting this month due to Saturn's May 24th entrance, into your sixth house of work, and it stays and continues all the way through. So set the intentions again to travel, explore, and discover more during the new moon in Cancer the next day on the 25th. Conversations about your work-life balance will reach a compromise as the end of June, as Mercury touches base with Saturn, Neptune, and then Pluto will retrograde as well. Everything should be good to go, right? Mercury retrograde's pre-shadow period starts June 30th, alluding to the potential miscommunication and travel issues next month.
Hmm.
Brace yourself for that. But it's important, Scorpio, that you don't overcommit to producing more than you can actually accomplish due to nebulous Neptune also residing in the same area of your chart. Okay. So
Mhm.
The June 2025 tarot card for Scorpio is the Three of Swords. Let me see if I got that. The Three of Swords. Okay. So that Three of Swords is supposed to be reversed. Again, I don't believe in reverse cards of any kind. It's not my forte. If anybody wants to go with that, they can. But it's listed as reversed. And Scorpio, when Mars enters Virgo, you get a deep sense of urgency to work on yourself and your relationships. June and your tarot card of the month is about emotional healing and growth from painful disappointments or shortcomings. You may feel that there are a few things you could have done differently and regret not having seen them sooner. And you may feel like you aren't where you should be. This is a month where you learn to forgive yourself for the past and use these lessons as a springboard to a brighter future. So be careful not to become overly self critical. Okay, we have issues with that. A lot of people do. You may struggle with imposter syndrome and fear being exposed as a fraud. Okay. However, this is a great opportunity for you, Scorpio. As a leader,
Mhm.
you can be transparent about this experience since it's common for people on any upward trajectory to feel this way. So share those knowledge with a lot of other people because showing your little fears like that just shows that you're human, just like the next person, because they experienced it as well. They're just very good at hiding it and making it look like they're passing it. Your experience can become an inspirational lesson for others, especially people who follow your social media post or one directly mentioned by you. Okay. All
Right
right.
on. Excellent. All right. Well, for Sagittarius, your June horoscope wants you to address your emotional needs. This is a safe space. All right, Sagittarius, you're not one to harp on negative situations and emotional wounds. June's astrological energy will implore you to sit with your feelings instead of brushing them aside. Letting yourself process painful emotions will be uncomfortable, but it will also help you become stronger as you heal your relationship with intimacy and vulnerability. Can you accept the love you know you deserve? Your Sagittarius horoscope for June 2025 says Gemini season wants you to deepen your seventh house of partnership, marriage, and commitment. The first week of June encouraged you to put yourself out there. Conversations about love and partnership had you thinking about what you want when Mars questioned Mercury on June 5th. However, when Venus entered Taurus the next day, you may have found yourself in discussions about your love life, romantic goals, and more and will have a lucky outcome. Excuse me, I'm tongue tied. And diving into your emotional needs, baggage, and desire for intimacy when Mercury and Jupiter entered Cancer, that was back on June 8th and 9th. So, whatever you begin now, dear Archer, is bound to satisfy you, either in the long run or even as soon as just this past full moon on the 11th and as that rose in the sky, since it occurs in your sign. That full moon in Sagittarius, as Star said, was powerful and important. And we won't be seeing that again for a while. Since it occurred in your sign, this full moon brings fated or destined vibes, unleashing meaningful events or bringing important people your way. But the biggest news of all is your planet, Jupiter, entering a powerful position in the sky in the warm and nurturing waters of Cancer. From now until the summer of 2026, you could truly feel like your mojo is returning, helping you manifest anything that you set your mind to. Jupiter will specifically help you reach deeper levels of commitment with the closest people to you. Love does align with your life as determined by the sun meeting with the south node of karma and the north node of fate on June 13th, today. Prepare to work through trauma, shame, guilt, and more surrounding your destiny for intimacy as restrictive Saturn and hazy Neptune hinders expansive Jupiter from June 15th to June 18th. You'll be up for the challenge though. Mars enters hardworking Virgo on June 17th. Your self work will continue as Cancer season begins on June 20th. And Cancer season will be the perfect time to address emotional blockages impacting your intimate bonds. Whether you're ready or not, you might be outwardly questioned about intimacy and enmeshments as Mars motivates on June 22nd. Sharing, since authoritative Saturn and confusing Neptune will corner the sun over the next few days. Sharing your pains, your truth, and your experiences will be rewarding, though, with Jupiter Kazimi blesses you on June 24th. This is just the beginning of your journey. Set the intention to heal your relationship wounds under the new moon in Cancer on June 25th. By the end of June, you will feel more empowered talking about your innermost thoughts and feelings. Having deep conversations will be freeing as Mercury confides in Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto retrograde from June 27th through the 29th. But be mindful of who you open up to, since Mercury retrograde's post shadow period will begin on June 30th. Confiding in the wrong person could set you back next month. All right. So, this is a fantastic month to be a Sagittarius. For starters, Saturn leaves your fourth house of family and home, lowering the pressure that you've been feeling for the past 2.5 years. This leaves more room for more flow and calm within your family dynamics or anyone with whom you cohabitate. If you are already partnered, this sweet lunar event is also incredibly positive to set intentions together regarding your shared goals for your relationship, regardless of their nature. So, now the June 2025 tarot card for Sag is Judgment. It's Judgment reversed, but as Star said, we're just going to leave it upright and let's just read the upright. We don't need to go into the reversals. Sagittarius, your ruling planet, Jupiter, makes its final connection with Mercury in your house of partnerships so that you may experience some changes in your love life. You will learn something about yourself that you need to know. Coincidentally, June and your tarot card for the month is also about self-exploration and trying a new life. Leave that old one behind, answer the call, all right? Learn to be comfortable with where you are in life. Grow where you're planted is a good phrase to write down and memorize this month.
Yeah.
If you've made progress in your goals by now, you still may feel like life is not going as planned. This is the time to tweak your schedule and timeline. Look for additional resources and aid to help move things along more smoothly. Maybe create a team of advisors who can give you guidance and positive feedback, but promptly in a timely manner. Above all else, be patient and realistic about how long things can take to complete. A big vision will not manifest overnight. Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
our horoscope. I guess, as you were saying, Star, we'll complete the rest of them next time. In the
Yes.
meantime, let us pull a card. Man, this
Right.
is We just came out of that full moon in Sag, and that full moon in
Yeah.
Sag, it's all that fire, and we're almost at the summer solstice, so there's more fire. So
All
I
right.
just want us to throw a card to look at where is our passion right now? What is our
Awesome.
passion looking like? So let's just pull a card on that. Where is our passion right now? I feel like a star right now.
What did you get? Pentacle?
I got pentacles. I got the
Oh my
9
gosh.
of Pentacles. This is for 2025, actually, I have to say. It's my 9 of Pentacles. So here I am. Where's my passion right now? Yeah, in manifesting and reaping the rewards and enjoying the fruits of my labor. That's where it's at. I want to enjoy some uh I want to enjoy good meals, comfortable beds, lovely travel, and enjoy the good life. That's what I want. That's where my passion is right now, in driving forward and getting to a place where I can reap the rewards of all the efforts.
Okay.
9 of
Um,
Pence.
it's just
Where
the strangest thing. I didn't get any
what?
pentacles this time. It's like you stole my pentacles.
What? What?
I always
What did
get
you get
pentacles,
this time?
but
I
I ended
mean,
up with two cards. The Shadow Sun, which is this one.
oh, can you pull it back from the screen? I can't see it. And hold it up a little bit. Sorry. Oh, what is that? What card is that?
It's
20.
called the Shadow Sun. I've never seen that card
What
before.
number is that down there? I can't even read it.
Uh,
V and X?
15.
It's 15?
15 or 14. What is X and V? X and V is that 14 or
It's
15?
15.
15.
15. 15. The Shadow Sun?
I know, right? I've never
The
heard of that one.
Shadow
And then
Sun?
the other one I have is the
Wow.
Eight of Swords.
Cool. Oh, the 8 of Swords.
Yeah. So my passion, it looks like, is just making sure that I put things in protective mode,
Right.
protect myself, but somehow and it kind of fits with that Shadow Sun card.
That's the Moon card.
You
That's
know, it
15.
feels like
That's
if
the Moon. I
yeah, it
love that
feels like
Shadow
if
Sun,
it's
but
basically I know, right? To call it the Shadow
yeah.
Sun.
Yeah, that's
Um,
kinda cool.
but there is a moon card in the deck. So that's why I wasn't sure what that one was. So it's kind of
Interesting.
odd. But anyways, it just feels like if um uh, uh I'm falling into this mode of like I need my passion to be protective of
Mm.
all the things that I'm trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
And some of it could feel like I'm flying blind, but not really. Um, because I still feel like even when when your eyesight is gone, to
Yeah.
me, other
Excuse
senses
me.
become more enhanced. So it
Yes.
feels like I'm not, even though it's saying I'm flying blind, I don't feel like I'm blind because it's
Mm.
opening up my other senses, is making me more aware of other things that I should look out for and how to protect myself.
Right on.
You know, because people are like, I remember meeting a guy who is disabled, but he would walk like kind of funny, but then
Yeah.
try to fight with him and he will kick your ass and go right back to being walking funny again.
Right. Oh, no,
And
no, no.
I'm just like,
Wait.
I'm that person and I'm just like, never underestimate.
Right. See, now I'm over here second guessing myself. Hold on a second, because 'cause I'm not gonna be 15, that's the devil card. That's the devil card. I'm thinking 13. I had to count them up again. 15 XV is the devil card, the
Okay.
shadow sun.
Okay.
That's so
Weird, right?
interesting.
It's
That
interesting.
is so interesting.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna say I think it's time. Yes, with
Yes, yes,
it.
yes. We want
That's
to
where the
thank
passions lie.
Right, right, right. Our next guest next week would be Lady Rhea. And we want to thank everyone in the chat and who's joined us tonight or in the future.
Yes,
And we want to thank our guest, Sen Jak, for being with us here tonight. He tried so hard and he got on here. We want to thank him for his perseverance and
yes.
sticking through it. And else would you like to have us do, Rhonda?
Please do like, subscribe, and share. And if you have comments, we are happy
Or
to take those
suggestions?
comments or suggestions. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone showing up tonight, sharing
And
it.
the same-
Hey, better late than never. Yes, we made it. We will see you next Friday. Have a great week, everyone.
Yep. Take care.